Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Heartland Farm. I apologize that we're late this week with our toy and the real McCoy. Had some errands to run this morning and had to attend the funeral service for a very dear friend that we lost. So thanks for indulging us and giving us a little extra time today. Had the tractor outdoors, and now we're getting a driving rain, something we've been praying for. So she's back inside, and we're going to do it from inside our barn number 5 today. And first thing I want to do is we drew the names earlier for the last 2 weeks worth of hat and t-shirt drawings. Last week's winner is Brendan Strong, and the week before I just told you who it was, Dave.
I don't remember.
Great. I'll have to tell you, I'll post it here in a little while. I wrote it down over at the house. Brendan Strong won last week, and then for the week before, I will post it here in a little while. Sorry for our disorganization. We're usually a little better, you know that. Today we're going to talk about a Ford Golden Demonstrator tractor, and here we have a toy 881 Golden Demonstrator. This is a unique program by Ford Motor Company. In 1959, they introduced the Selecto-Speed transmission, essentially the first power shift transmission of more than 2 speeds in a farm tractor. And it was introduced in 1959 to much acclaim, and more to that story is going to be coming up here shortly when we look at the real McCoy. But in 1959, there were over 2,000 Ford tractor dealers here in the United States, and every one of them was very strongly encouraged to order one of the Golden Demonstrators with the Selecto-Speed transmission. The idea was for the salesmen to take them out and put them side by side with the tractors that were already owned by a farmer to show the increase in productivity and efficiency of the power shift transmission. So this model here is an 881 Selecto-Speed. You'll see the graphics on it are going to closely match our real tractor. The only difference is that we don't just collect tractors here at Heartland Farm. We collect front wheel assist tractors. And our real McCoy today is a real odd duck, a real oddity to be able to find and to be able to have in our collection. So if you'll look, you have this little single lever right here, which is the console for the Selecto-Speed transmission. It has 10 speeds forward, 2 reverse, and a park position. These tractors were offered in a gasoline or a diesel engine tractor, and the one we'll be looking at here today is going to be a gasoline model 871 instead of the 881. The 871 has a 10-speed Selecto-Speed and a single-speed PTO. The 881 has a Selecto-Speed and a 2-speed PTO on it is the difference. So when you're talking about an 800 series tractor, you're looking at a whole bunch of different models that the first digit denotes the series, the second digit denotes a feature of the tractor, the transmission or the power takeoff, and then the third digit is just because it's a 1 series. So it's an 801 series, and this one happens to be an 881 in the toy, 871 here on the real McCoy. This toy was made by Ertl. This is a highly detailed tractor that sadly didn't come from Ertl's factory in Dyersville, Iowa, but came from a factory that they own over in China. And I'm ashamed to say that these toys are made in China, but the detail on the Chinese toys is absolutely amazing. They do a phenomenal job with detail and bringing these replicas to life. But I grew up with toy tractors, and I can tell you that these toys made in China aren't made for the rigors of play that we put them through as little kids when we used to wear the knees out of our jeans instead of buying them with the holes already in them. So not to take any credit away from the beauty of the tractor, it is definitely a collector's item. It has the 3-point hitch replicated on it. It has all the details of the engine, the shifting lever, the wheel rims, the footrests, everything is replicated to an amazing amount of detail. And I do love toys. They are the gateway drug to the real thing. So here we are with our real McCoy. This is a Ford 871 Selecto-Speed tractor made in 1959. It has a very interesting story about this series of tractors. And I got to take you back a long, long way to a gentleman named Harold Brock. Harold Brock was born in West Virginia. He grew up in Detroit, and he made the grade. He qualified for the Ford Motors Company apprenticeship program at the young age of 15. One of the qualifications that you needed to be in the Ford Motor Company apprenticeship program was you had to show financial need. In other words, you had to be a family of very low income that needed a tradesman to help bring up your standard of living. It was a very noble effort by the Ford Motor Company, their apprenticeship program. And so Mr. Brock got in at the age of 15 and went on to become an engineer in the transmission and rear axle division at Ford Motor Company outside Detroit. So we'll fast forward a little bit to 1938. Mr. Brock was supposedly at that fortuitous meeting between Henry Ford and Harry Ferguson. Henry Ford had stopped producing the Fordson tractor in 1928, but he knew full well that there needed to be a farm tractor that was affordable for all farmers to be able to buy. In 1938, there were still 19 million draft animals performing farm chores in the United States, and Henry Ford wanted to design a tractor that made the job easier, and that between the team of horses, the harness, and the 10 acres of ground it took to feed them, that the tractor had to cost less than what the sum total is of those three items, which was $540. So he anointed Mr. Brooks, Harold Brock, to do the design and engineering on this tractor that met those qualifications. And in a very hurried fashion, in 1939, they introduced the Ford 9N, utilizing the Ferguson system, which was the rock shaft lift with a three-point hitch attachment, which has certainly become the world-renowned standard for attachment connection to the tractor. And so in 1939, they brought out the Ford 9N, engineered by Harold Brock, and then they made some improvements on it. And in 1942, they introduced the Ford 2N tractor, which also had high acclaim. You have to understand that was during the war years, and it was hard to procure enough materials to make tractors. So there were not a huge number of 2Ns manufactured during that time. And as they continued to make them after the war, they made more improvements, and then they came out in 1948 with the Ford 8N. Mr. Brock, once again, the head engineer at the tractor division at Ford in Highland Park, Michigan. So I had to stop and think for a minute. I want to say Illinois when I knew darn well which state I wanted to talk about. So anyways, we'll get into the 50s at this point. Mr. Brock was designing more and more improvements. The Ford NAA tractor came out in 1953, also known as the Golden Jubilee tractor. That tractor celebrated Ford's 50 years in the tractor business in the United States. And then they went on to start development onto a more durable, I won't say durable, a more powerful and a more elaborate series of tractors. And so came the three-digit number series of tractors, the 600 series, the 500 series, 600 series, and 800 series tractors introduced in 1958. So Harold Brock was working very hard on technological advancements in farm tractors, and he went on to design this selective-speed transmission. And at this point, Henry Ford II, who is Edsel Ford's son and Henry Ford's grandson, insisted that the selective speed be introduced in 1959. Harold Brock said this transmission is not holding up as well as I want it to in tests. It is not ready for production, and we cannot bring it to market yet. We have some more refinements to make, to which Henry Ford II said, no, the transmission's coming out in 1959, and that's final. Harold Brock said, you're going to have yourself another chief of engineering, because I'm not going to be here when this thing fails in the field. And he left and went to work for another company that you've probably heard of. They make the green tractors with yellow wheels that I sell every day. He went to work for John Deere and had a very storied career with John Deere at the Waterloo Works in Waterloo, Iowa. He went on a very few years later, after designing the Ford Selective Speed, to design and perfect the John Deere 8-speed power shift transmission, which became the standard of the industry in 1964 when it came out on the 4020 tractor. And of course, it was improved upon again when they put another high-low pack in it and became the John Deere 15-speed with a transmission that served John Deere all the way through the 60 series row crop tractors before we went to the electronic fuel delivery tractors in the 7 and 8,000 series. Harold Brock died in 2011 at the age of 95. He retired from John Deere in 1980. And I would say that he should take claim to being the engineer that really brought the most innovation to farm tractors of any of all the American tractor agricultural engineers was Harold Brock. So a tribute to that man and the design of this tractor. But I will tell you, the Ford Motor Company had to stand the perils of a lot of failures of the Selecto-Speed. The word was, and of course these predate me in life, but my first job at a Ford tractor dealership, was a Ford tractor dealership, West Mountain Sales, right here in neighboring Glens Falls, New York. And we had a couple of guys that really were Selecto-Speed experts, because you did get to work on quite a few of them. The convenience was just amazing on these transmissions, but they were brought to market a little early, and Ford did stand behind all the failures of the early years and upgraded and made the refinements that Harold Brock insisted be done before they were brought to market. They were all done after the fact. And if you got a Selecto-Speed that's out there working today, it's probably going to work for a long, long time. So this tractor, not only is it a 1959 genuine golden demonstrator, of which there were only about 2,000 of them, it is extremely rare in that it has the Elenco four-wheel drive addition on it. The Elenco front driving axle was installed by dealers. It was offered as a kit. The EL in Elenco is the same EL in Elwood. Elwood Manufacturing, also in Elwood, Illinois, made front wheel assist for International Harvester tractors and a handful of John Deeres, but were never offered by the dealerships. They were offered by International Harvester dealers, but the Elenco axle kit was something that was purchased by the dealer and installed at the dealership. It required splitting the tractor, putting a sprocket inside the transmission housing, which drives the chain, which drives the transfer case, which drives your front wheel drive on this. Elwood and Elenco made their business at first by buying surplus axles. So their big front wheel drive axles were out of 2.5-ton military trucks that were surplus, as they were near an Army depot in Illinois, and were able to buy this stuff surplus quite reasonably. On the small Elenco, on the four-wheel drive Fords, this is the front axle from a Dodge Power Wagon with slight modifications so that it becomes a four-wheel drive. This is a very, very rare tractor because there were only about 2,000 gold demos in the Ford business to begin with, and then to add one with Elenco four-wheel drive makes it extremely rare. This tractor has the 172 cubic inch Ford engine in it. This is an upgrade over the smaller 130-some cubic inch engine that was so popular for many, many years. It's a 6-volt electrical system. Here's your Selecto-Speed. Here's your power takeoff independent PTO right here, individual wheel brakes. And instead of an actual clutch pedal, you just have a little creeper pedal on this tractor, because it's just for inching when you're inching up to an implement, when you're hooking it up and whatnot. It wasn't intended to be used as a foot clutch. All the shift was clutchless. You just shifted up and down right here with a single chrome knobbed control handle right here for your increase and decrease in speed. You paused momentarily in neutral and then shifted into reverse, of which there was 2 reverse gears. It's a beautiful tractor. I bought it in 2019 at the Mecum Gone Farming Auction, which was held at the time in Davenport, Iowa, at the Mississippi River Fairgrounds. It was a great experience to be out there. They had advertised this tractor on the Gone Farming Auction for months in advance, as we were hoping to finally be able to go to one of those auctions out there. I said to Jane, if we go to that auction, I want to bring that gold Ford home. The first day of the auction, they were selling tractors and memorabilia and neon signs and things like that, and the prices were just beyond belief. And I said, we're not going to get anything bought here, my dear. And as luck would have it, the next day I went in with a whole new attitude, and we were able to purchase this tractor, which we proudly display here at Heartland Farm. Once again, we ask you to share our videos. We'll throw your name in a hat so that you can win a hat and a t-shirt, which we'll ship to you wherever you are. And next week, got to make good on a promise to my friend Carl Frazier, so we're going to bring you a truck next week. And as we get into August and our county fair comes, we'll be broadcasting live from the Washington County Fair on Sunday, August 28th, and we'll bring you something special from down there as well. In the meantime, we wish you all well. We wish you all God's blessings. We hope that you're safe. Hope that you're getting abundant rain for your crops wherever you may be. Our rain has already stopped here today. We thought we were going to maybe get a good one. So thanks for sharing your time with us on The Toy and the Real McCoy. And once again, you can watch us on YouTube, Tractor Tim and the Toys. Thanks, and have a great week.